Welcome, my friend. Stop for a moment. Put your phone down, sit straight, close your eyes for 2 seconds and take one slow breath. Now ask yourself honestly, have you ever tried to change and felt like nobody believed you? Not because they hated you, but because they were used to the old you. This story is about a man named Ethan and the day he realized something painful. Nobody believed in him, so he did it alone. From the outside, Ethan looked normal. He showed up to work. He paid his bills. He laughed at the right moments. He nodded in conversations. But inside, he carried a quiet shame because he had a long history of starting things and not finishing. He tried the gym, quit, tried waking up early, quit, tried learning new skills, quit. Not because he didn't care, because every time he failed, he felt smaller. And when you feel small enough times, you stop trusting yourself. Ethan still remembered the last time he told someone he was going to change. He said it with real hope. He said it like he meant it. His friend smiled and said, "Yeah, okay." Not cruel, just tired. Another friend joked, "Give it a week." Even his own brother said, "Man, you always say that." Those words didn't make Ethan angry. They made him quiet. Because the worst pain is not criticism. The worst pain is being predictable. When people look at you and already know the ending. Ethan started keeping his goals private after that. He stopped announcing plans. He stopped posting new beginning energy. He stopped talking about change. He told himself he was being mature, but deep down it was fear. Fear of failing in public again. So Ethan lived a safe life. A life where nobody expected anything from him. A life where nobody was disappointed because nobody was watching. But safe life has a hidden cost. It makes you lonely. Not lonely like no people around you. Lonely like no one truly sees you trying. One Monday morning, Ethan sat in a meeting at work. He listened to someone present a plan. The room nodded. People respected the speaker. Ethan watched and felt something tighten in his chest. Not jealousy, a deeper feeling. I used to have ideas too. He remembered being younger with energy. He remembered believing he could build something. He remembered wanting more than just surviving the week. Now he felt like a person who had been edited down, edited by time, edited by comfort, edited by failure. After the meeting, Ethan walked back to his desk. He opened his email. More tasks, more noise, more repetition. He stared at the screen and felt tired in a way that sleep could not fix. That evening, he went home and sat on the couch. He told himself he would relax for a minute. The minute became an hour, then two. Scrolling, snacks, videos, more noise. Ethan looked up at the dark window and whispered, "Is this it?" That question scared him because it wasn't dramatic. It was real, and real questions don't go away. Ethan went to bed and felt heavy, not because he worked too hard, because he didn't feel alive. The next day, something small happened that hit Ethan harder than it should have. A new hire started at work, young, energetic, confident. At lunch, the new hire talked about a project he was working on after hours, a skill he was learning, a goal he was building toward. People listened. They asked questions. They encouraged him. Ethan sat quietly and smiled politely. But inside, he felt a sting. Not because the new hire was better, because the new hire still believed. Ethan used to believe too. On the way back to his desk, Ethan heard two co-workers behind him. They were talking casually, not trying to be mean. One said, "Ethan's a good guy." The other said, "Yeah, he's solid, just he's not really ambitious." Ethan kept walking like he didn't hear. but the words followed him into his chest. Not ambitious. That's how people label you when they stop expecting change. Ethan sat at his desk and stared at the keyboard. His hands felt still. His mind felt loud. That night, he didn't scroll. Not because he was disciplined, because he was tired of disappearing. He sat at his small desk and pulled out a notebook. Not a fancy one, a plain one. He wrote the title at the top of the page, "Nobody Believed in Me." He paused, he breathed slowly. Then he wrote the next line. "I don't blame them." That line shocked him because it was true. People didn't believe because they had evidence. They had watched him restart and quit too many times. Ethan stared at the page and felt something uncomfortable. Responsibility, not shame. Responsibility. He wrote, "I trained them to doubt me." He leaned back. His throat tightened. Because the truth is sharp. But then another thought arrived. A thought that felt like a door opening. If nobody believes in me, I can still believe in me. Ethan smiled softly, like he almost didn't trust the idea. He wrote the next sentence. "This time I won't talk. I'll build." He underlined build, because Ethan realized something about himself. He used to chase motivation. He used to chase big plans. He used to chase perfect streaks. But those things broke easily. What he needed wasn't motivation. He needed proof. Small proof. Daily proof. He wrote a rule. Rule, I will do one small thing every day, even if nobody sees it. No announcement, no posting, no asking for approval, no speeches, just action. He wrote the smallest version he could handle. 10 minutes, every day, no excuses. 10 minutes of what? One skill, one focus task, one step towards something better. Ethan didn't choose 10 minutes because it was impressive. He chose it because it was survivable. The crowd quits when it's hard, but Ethan wasn't trying to impress the crowd. He was trying to rebuild trust with himself. He looked at the clock. It was late. His body wanted comfort. His mind wanted to delay. Old Ethan would say, tomorrow. But Ethan knew something now. Tomorrow is where false change lives. Real change starts now, in small ways. So Ethan started the timer. 10 minutes. He opened a simple learning video connected to a skill he needed. He took notes. He practiced for 10 minutes. Not perfect, not fast, just present. When the timer ended, Ethan felt something in his chest. Not confidence, not happiness, relief. Because for once he didn't promise. He did. He wrote one sentence in the notebook. I kept my word today. Then he wrote another sentence under it. That's how belief is built. Ethan closed the notebook and placed it on the desk like it mattered, because it did. He went to bed that night and felt tired, but it was a clean tired. The next morning would test him, because the hardest part is not doing it once. The hardest part is doing it when nobody claps, when nobody notices, when nobody believes, when it feels pointless. That is where most people quit, and that is where Ethan would either return to the old story or finally write a new one. The next morning, Ethan woke up and felt nothing. No inspiration, no fire, no new me energy, just a quiet heaviness. And that was the first real test. Because when nobody believes in you, your brain starts copying them. It starts saying, why try? It starts asking, well, what's the point? Ethan lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. He could feel the old pattern forming. Skip today, restart later, wait for motivation. Then he remembered the rule he wrote. 10 minutes every day, no excuses. Ethan whispered, 10 minutes is not a life. It's a return. He sat up, cold water on his face, one slow breath. He walked to the desk and saw the notebook. It was waiting like a quiet witness. He opened it and wrote the date. Then he wrote one line. Today I build proof. He started the timer. 10 minutes, he opened the same skill practice from last night. 2 minutes in, his mind started fighting. This is boring. You're slow. You're behind. Other people are better. Ethan noticed the thoughts and didn't argue with them. He didn't try to become confident in 10 minutes. He simply stayed. 10 minutes ended. He closed the laptop. Then he wrote one sentence. Done. That was it. No speeches, no emotional paragraph. Just done. Ethan went to work. The day moved like usual, but Ethan felt a difference inside. A small calm, because when you keep a promise to yourself, your nervous system relaxes. It stops feeling like you're lying. At lunch, Ethan sat with coworkers. They talked about weekend plans, they joked, they scrolled, they complained about work. Someone asked Ethan, "What do you got going on this weekend?" Ethan almost said the old answer, "Nothing much." Then he felt the urge to speak about his new plan, to tell them he was learning something, to prove he was changing. But Ethan caught himself. He remembered the sentence, "This time I won't talk. I'll build." He smiled and said, "Just taking it easy." Not because he was ashamed, because he was protecting something fragile. Early proof is like a small flame. Too much wind can kill it. After work, Ethan got home tired. The couch called his name. The phone glowed. Comfort felt close. He told himself, "I'll do my 10 minutes later." That word later is dangerous. Later is how the crowd delays their life. Ethan stood still and felt the resistance. It wasn't huge. It was subtle. It was the feeling of being alone. Because when no one believes in you, no one is waiting for you to succeed. No one checks on you. No one asks for updates. No one claps. It's just you and your quiet decision. Ethan sat at the desk anyway. Timer, 10 minutes. He did it again. When the timer ended, he wrote in the notebook, Day 2, proof. That night, Ethan slept better than usual. Not because life was easier, because he was honest with himself. 3 days passed, then 5. Ethan kept doing 10 minutes. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night, but always the same rule. No excuses, no speeches, no reset. At work, nobody noticed. Why would they? 10 minutes doesn't show on your face. And that was another test. Because the ego wants results fast. It wants recognition. It wants proof that other people can see. Ethan's change was invisible. So on day 6, Ethan almost quit. Not because he hated the work, because the work didn't reward him yet. He sat at the desk and stared at the notebook. His mind said, "You're still the same. You're wasting time. No one cares. Why try?" Ethan felt a tightness in his chest. He wanted to throw the notebook away. He wanted to return to comfort. At least comfort gave him instant feeling. Then Ethan remembered something he heard once. Most people don't fail from one big mistake. They fail from quiet boredom. Boredom is where the crowd returns, because boredom makes you doubt. Ethan took one slow breath and asked himself one question. What am I actually trying to build? He wrote the answer, I'm building self-trust. That sentence grounded him, because self-trust is not built through excitement, it's built through repetition. Ethan started the timer, 10 minutes. He moved. After the timer ended, he wrote, I win by showing up. That night, Ethan went to the grocery store. He walked past snacks and felt the urge. He was tired. He wanted comfort. He paused and asked, Is this comfort helping me? He didn't ban it. He didn't act like a robot. He just chose a smaller version. He bought one treat instead of 5. That was separation. Not dramatic discipline, simple control. The next week, something unexpected happened. The new hire at work asked Ethan a question. "Hey, can you show me how you organize this file system? You seem calm with it." Ethan almost laughed because he didn't feel calm. He just returned a lot. He helped the new hire. Then the new hire said, "Appreciate it. You're steady, man." Steady, that word landed, because Ethan didn't feel steady before. He felt like a restart person, a quit person. Now someone else was describing him differently. Ethan didn't celebrate loudly. He didn't tell anyone. He just wrote it in the notebook later. Someone noticed steadiness. Then he wrote underneath, "Keep building." But the biggest test was coming next. Because when nobody believes in you, you start craving one thing more than anything: validation, a sign, a compliment, a message that says, "I knew you could." And the danger is this: if your fuel becomes validation, you will stop when the validation disappears. Ethan would have to learn a deeper skill: how to stay committed when nobody cheers, and even you don't feel like cheering. And that lesson would come from the place Ethan feared most: a conversation, not with his coworkers, not with his friends, with his family. The people who had seen him restart the most. The people who had the most evidence against him. Ethan wasn't ready for that conversation, but life was about to bring it anyway. The conversation happened on a Sunday afternoon. Ethan drove to his parents' house to check on his dad. His father was doing better, but still recovering. The house smelled like familiar time, coffee, laundry, and quiet routines. Ethan walked in, hugged his mom, nodded at his dad, then sat down like he always did. Small talk, weather, work, nothing heavy. But Ethan felt something building inside him. Not anger, a pressure. Because for weeks he had been doing his 10 minutes, every day, quietly. No announcements. And something in him wanted to say it out loud, not to brag, to be seen, to hear one sentence. "I'm proud of you." Ethan didn't know how much he wanted that until he was sitting right there. His mom asked, "How's work been?" Ethan answered, "Fine." His dad asked, "You keeping up with everything?" Ethan said, "Yeah." Then his brother walked into the room. Same smile, same teasing energy. He sat down and said, "So what's new with you?" Before Ethan could answer, his brother added, half joking, "You still doing your new plan of the month?" The words landed like a small punch. Not because they were evil, because they were familiar. Ethan felt heat rise in his face. His chest tightened. The old shame tried to wake up. He wanted to defend himself. He wanted to explain. He wanted to say, "I'm different now." But he remembered his rule. "This time, I won't talk. I'll build." So Ethan forced a small smile and said, "Nah, nothing like that." His brother laughed lightly and said, "Good. Just be normal, man. No more random phases." Ethan nodded, but inside something cracked. Be normal. What his brother meant was, be predictable. Be the version of you we already understand. Don't surprise us. Ethan looked at his dad. His dad was quiet, watching, not judging, just listening. Ethan felt the urge to speak again, to tell them about the notebook, the 10 minutes, the daily proof, the steadiness he was building. But Ethan hesitated because he could already hear the response in his head. "Let's see how long it lasts." That response would kill the flame, not because it's true, because early belief is fragile. Ethan stayed quiet. After a while, his brother started talking about his own life, his plans, his wins, his next big idea. Everyone listened, everyone laughed, everyone responded. Ethan sat there and felt invisible, not unseen as a human, unseen as a person trying. He smiled at the right moments, but his mind drifted. Why do I even try? No one cares. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not built for change. That thinking was poison, because Ethan was not only fighting habits, he was fighting an identity everyone had given him, the identity of the guy who quits. Ethan helped clean up after lunch. He washed a few dishes, he wiped the counter, he stayed quiet. Then his mom walked beside him and said softly, "Are you okay?" That question was gentle, and it made Ethan's throat tighten. He nodded quickly. "Yeah," he said. His mom looked at him longer. Then she said, "You've seemed different lately. Calmer." Ethan froze. His heart beat faster. Different. That was the word he wanted, but he didn't know if he trusted it. He shrugged slightly. "I don't know," he said. His mom smiled and said, "Well, it's good. Whatever you're doing." She walked away. Ethan stood at the sink and stared at the water. He felt something rise inside him. Not pride, relief, because one person had noticed. Not his results, his energy. But the moment still hurt, because his brother's joke was still in Ethan's chest. When Ethan left the house, he sat in his car and didn't start it right away. He just sat there with both hands on the steering wheel. Silent. He whispered, "Why does it bother me so much?" Then the answer came, because Ethan wanted belief from people he loved, and he didn't have it. Ethan started driving home, and his mind kept replaying the conversation. He imagined responding differently. He imagined saying, "I'm actually working on something." He imagined proving himself. But Ethan also knew the truth. People don't believe words. They believe patterns. And Ethan had to respect that. He couldn't demand trust. He had to earn it. That night, Ethan sat at his desk and opened the notebook. He wrote the date. Then he wrote a sentence he didn't want to write. "It hurts when nobody believes me." He stared at the words and took one slow breath. Then he wrote the next sentence. "I will not use that pain as an excuse." That was the turning point, because pain can do two things. It can make you quit, or it can make you grow. Ethan wrote a new rule. When I feel unseen, I return harder. Not harder like punishment, harder like commitment. He wrote underneath, 10 minutes becomes 15. Not forever, just for the next 7 days. A small challenge, a private promise. Then Ethan asked himself something deeper. What do I want more? Approval or identity? He wrote the answer without thinking. Identity. Because Ethan finally understood. The crowd loves applause, but applause is unstable. It comes and goes. Identity is stable. Identity stays. He started the timer. 15 minutes. His mind fought him, not because the task was hard, because his emotions were loud, his brother's joke, his own shame, the feeling of being predictable. Ethan kept returning to the task anyway, minute by minute. When the timer ended, Ethan felt something settle, a quiet power, because he didn't let the conversation control him. He didn't let doubt decide his future. He didn't let someone else's expectations become his ceiling. He wrote in the notebook, I can do it alone. Then he paused and wrote the next line carefully. But I don't have to be lonely. Ethan understood a hard truth. Doing it alone does not mean hating people. It means refusing to wait for permission. It means acting without applause. It means building in silence. It means becoming the kind of person who keeps promises, even when nobody believes. Ethan closed the notebook and leaned back. He realized the loneliness was real, but it wasn't a stop sign. It was a price that most people refuse to pay. And that is why most people stay the same. But Ethan had crossed a line now. He wasn't building for compliments. He wasn't building to prove his brother wrong. He wasn't building to impress anyone. He was building to respect himself. And soon life would test that commitment again. Not with a joke, not with doubt, with a setback. A moment where Ethan would fail publicly. A moment where people would watch. A moment where his old identity would try to drag him back. And Ethan would have to choose. Quit and confirm what they think. Or return and become someone new. The setback came at work. It was the kind of moment Ethan used to fear. A public moment. A moment where people notice. A moment where your old story tries to become your future again. Ethan had been doing his daily practice for weeks. 10 minutes became 15. 15 became a steady habit. He wasn't loud about it. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. But the work started to show. He asked better questions. He stayed calmer under pressure. He finished small tasks without dragging them for days. He wasn't perfect. He was steady. Then his manager called him into a quick meeting. Not formal, just a small conference room and a laptop. The manager said, "I want you to take lead on this part. It's not huge, but it matters. I think you can handle it." Ethan felt his stomach drop. Not because he didn't want it, because responsibility triggers old fear. He nodded and said, "Okay." He tried to sound calm. The manager explained the task. A short presentation, a small plan. Nothing that should break a person. But Ethan walked back to his desk and felt the pressure growing. Because this wasn't just a task, it was a stage. A stage where people would either update their belief about him or confirm the old version. Ethan opened his notebook. He wrote one sentence. Lead anyway. Then he wrote the return rule underneath. If I feel fear, I shrink the next step. Next step, not whole project, not whole week. Next step. Ethan wrote the next step. Outline 3 points. 10 minutes. He started the timer. He wrote the 3 points. He didn't overthink. He didn't chase perfection. He finished the 10 minutes and felt his body relax slightly. Then the day got messy. An urgent email. A sudden meeting. A coworker needing help. The usual noise. Ethan's plan began to break. And with every interruption, his anxiety rose. By late afternoon, Ethan realized he was behind. He hadn't practiced. He hadn't refined the slides. He hadn't prepared enough. Old Ethan would panic and escape. He would scroll. He would numb out. He would tell himself he'll do it later. Then he would stay up too late and perform badly. Ethan felt the old pattern knocking. His hand reached toward his phone. His mind whispered, "Just take a break. Just distract for a minute." Ethan stopped. One slow breath. He opened the notebook again and wrote, "Friction moment." That's what he called it. The moment where your old life tries to return. Ethan wrote the next step. Fix one slide. 5 minutes. He did it. Then another, then another. He didn't feel confident, but he kept moving. That night, Ethan went home and felt exhausted. His body wanted the couch. His mind wanted comfort. And the most dangerous thought appeared. You're going to mess up anyway. So why try? That thought has ended more dreams than failure ever did. Ethan stood in his apartment and stared at the wall. He felt loneliness again. The quiet weight of doing it alone. No friend cheering him on. No one checking on him. No one saying, "You got this." Just him. And that's when Ethan did something he had never done before. He spoke to himself like someone he cared about. He said out loud quietly, "You're afraid, but you're not quitting." He sat at the desk. He opened the slides. He started the timer for 15 minutes. He practiced, not perfectly, but honestly. He stumbled on a sentence. He corrected it. He kept going. He finished the 15 minutes. Then he did another 15, 2 rounds, 30 minutes. Not a heroic grind, a clean effort. When he finished, he closed the laptop and breathed slowly. He wrote one sentence in the notebook. Prepared enough. Then he slept. The next morning, Ethan arrived early. His hands felt slightly cold. His heart beat faster than normal. He walked into the meeting room and saw a few coworkers already there. They were chatting, smiling, calm. Ethan sat down and felt like an outsider, like everyone else belonged here and he was pretending. The manager said, "All right, Ethan, go ahead." Ethan stood up. He faced the screen. He looked at the room, and for the first minute, it went well. Then it happened. A question, a simple question from someone in the back. Ethan knew the answer. He had read it. He had seen it. But in that moment, his mind went blank. The room went quiet. Not cruel quiet, just waiting quiet. Ethan felt heat rise in his face. His throat tightened. His brain searched for the words and found nothing. And then someone chuckled. Small, not loud, but enough. Ethan's chest sank. He felt the old identity grab him like a rope. See? Public failure. Back to the old you. Ethan could feel it, that rush of shame, that urge to escape, that urge to speak too fast, to defend, to joke, to disappear. This was the moment that used to break him, the moment that used to send him into a week-long collapse, the moment that would make him quit the habit, quit the progress, quit himself. Ethan looked at the person who asked the question. He took one slow breath. Then he did something new. He told the truth. He said, "I don't have that number in my head right now, but I can pull it up and confirm it after this. And I'll send it to everyone today." The room stayed quiet, but the quiet felt different, not waiting, respecting. Ethan continued. He moved to the next slide. He kept his pace steady. He finished the presentation. Not perfect, but complete. He sat down and felt his heart pounding. The meeting ended. People walked out. A few nodded at him. Not big praise, just normal. Then the manager stayed behind. He looked at Ethan and said, "Good job. You didn't panic. That's what matters." Ethan nodded and said, "Thanks." But Ethan knew the real battle was not the meeting. The real battle was what he would do next. Because the old Ethan would go home and replay the blank moment. He would feel shame. He would punish himself. He would disappear into scrolling. He would quit. Ethan walked back to his desk and opened the notebook immediately. He wrote one sentence. "I blanked." "I returned." He wrote the next sentence. "Not perfect. Still proof." Then he sent the follow-up email with the correct number. Fast, clean, no drama. A coworker replied, "Thanks." That was it. And Ethan felt something shift inside him because he realized the secret. It's not the mistake that destroys you. It's the shame after the mistake. The crowd collapses after embarrassment. They call it a sign. They call it proof. They quit to protect their ego. Ethan didn't quit. He returned. That evening, Ethan drove home with a quiet pride, not loud confidence. Quiet pride, because he had just done the thing he never did before. He failed in public, and he didn't disappear. He stayed. And that meant the old story was breaking, but one last challenge was still ahead. Because sooner or later, when you keep building in silence, people begin to notice. And when they notice, they start talking. Some will support you, some will doubt you, some will try to pull you back to the version they remember. Ethan would have to learn how to handle that attention, because doing it alone is hard. But staying strong when people finally look at you again, that can be even harder. After the presentation, something changed. Not in Ethan's life, in the way people looked at him. It wasn't dramatic, it was subtle. But Ethan noticed. A coworker stopped by his desk and asked a question instead of guessing. Someone invited him into a planning conversation. His manager gave him a small nod in the hallway. Small signals. But to Ethan, they felt like a shift in gravity. For a long time, Ethan was invisible. Not as a person, as potential. Now people were starting to update their belief. And that's when Ethan faced a new danger. The danger of being seen. Because when nobody believes in you, you feel lonely. But when people finally start believing, you feel pressure. Pressure to keep performing, pressure to stay perfect, pressure to prove them right. And pressure can create the same old cycle. All in effort, fear of slipping, shame, collapse. Ethan sat at his desk one evening and opened his notebook. He wrote a question he didn't expect to write. What if I mess up again now that they're watching? He stared at the sentence and felt his chest tighten. That fear was real, so he wrote the response underneath, calm and clear. I will mess up again, and I will return again. He underlined return, because Ethan finally understood the point. This was never about proving people wrong. It was about becoming someone reliable to himself. That weekend, Ethan visited his parents again. His brother was there. The same brother who joked about new plans. They sat in the living room. Sports on TV, coffee on the table, normal life. Ethan's brother looked at him and said casually, "So how's work?" Ethan said, "Good." Then for the first time, he added one more line. "I led a small presentation last week." His brother raised an eyebrow. "Look at you," he said, half joking. Ethan waited for the old punchline, the give it a week, the don't start a new phase, but it didn't come. His brother just nodded and said, "Nice. About time." The words were not warm, not emotional, but they were something Ethan never got before. Recognition. Ethan's chest felt tight, but he stayed calm. He didn't chase more. He didn't demand praise. He didn't make it a big moment. He just nodded and said, "Yeah." Later, his mom pulled Ethan aside in the kitchen. She spoke softly like she didn't want anyone to hear. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I can see you're trying." Ethan felt his throat tighten. He looked down for a second and breathed. He didn't want to cry, but his eyes felt wet because he realized something. He didn't need everyone to believe in him. He just needed one person to see his effort. He nodded and said quietly, "Thanks." Then he drove home and sat alone in his apartment. He looked at the notebook on the desk. He opened it and flipped back to the first page. Nobody believed in me. I don't blame them. Ethan read it slowly. Then he turned to the newest page and wrote the truth. Some people are starting to believe now. But I'm not doing this for them. He paused. Then he wrote one more sentence. I'm doing this because I'm tired of living as a maybe. That line hit him. Living as a maybe. Maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll become disciplined. Maybe I'll be serious one day. Maybe I'll finally stop quitting. Ethan was done being a maybe. He wrote a new rule. Rule, I don't negotiate with the old life, because the old life always offers deals. Skip today. Scroll a little. Do it tomorrow. You're tired. You deserve comfort. Ethan wasn't going to debate anymore. He wasn't going to hate himself either. He would simply return. Minimum first. Comfort after. Ethan stood up and looked around his apartment. He noticed how different it felt now. The phone charger was still in the kitchen. The notebook still owned the center of the desk. The couch was still there, but it no longer controlled him. It's strange. The room didn't change much, but Ethan did, because he finally learned the lesson nobody teaches. When nobody believes in you, your job is not to convince them. Your job is to become undeniable, not through talking, through repeating small proof. Day after day, quietly, patiently, until your results speak for you. Ethan thought about the people who never believed. Some of them would never change their mind, even if Ethan succeeded, and that was okay, because Ethan wasn't building a life to impress doubters. He was building a life to respect himself. Ethan sat at the desk and asked one question. What is the smallest proof I can build today? Then he answered it with action. Timer, 15 minutes. One step. He finished. He closed the notebook. He took one slow breath, and he felt something in his chest that used to be rare. Peace. Because peace is not a perfect life. Peace is a life you can trust. Now listen carefully. If nobody believes in you right now, you are not doomed. You are simply in the silent season. The season where you build without applause. The season where you become steady. The season where you stop needing permission. And yes, it can feel lonely, but loneliness is not always a warning. Sometimes it's the price of growth. So if you're tired of being doubted, stop explaining. Stop announcing. Build. Quietly. Daily. Small. Because the world doesn't reward potential. It rewards patterns. And when you become a new pattern, belief will follow. Maybe not today. Maybe not from everyone. But it will follow. Thank you for listening. If you want more calm, powerful stories like this that also help you learn clear English, subscribe and stay with us. The link is in the description.